Well, first off, good evening, everyone. Good to see everybody. Thanks so much for taking the time to be a part of the virtual book tour. Tammy and I, man, so excited to be doing it. We've done a few of these, and really we're just striving to highlight amazing people that's doing great things. And Tammy and I talked before we hopped on, and this is going to be a good one. And so, you guys that have been on before, that are hopping on, the people that are going tonight have amazing stories, amazing books, and I'm so excited to learn from you guys and looking forward to the opportunity tonight. So again, just thanks so much for being a part of it. And Tammy.
All right, I made a mistake on that first slide. I'll correct that. But I'm glad everybody's here tonight. And I always like to start with this slide because I think it's important as authors that we help each other and our supporters recognize you don't just have to buy a book to support us. There's many different ways where you can spread the word. And most of us, as I hear our stories, we're not authors to make a living. We're authors to get messages out there. So this is just different ways that you can help your favorite author. So I love this graphic, so I like to share it every month. And we're going to start with Chip, who needs no introduction.
Who is that guy? All right. So first, I'm going to highlight two books this evening. Tammy will do the same. But my first book that I want to highlight is actually my second book that I published, and it's co-authored with Dr. Oliver T. Reed. And the title of that is Effective Conversation to Ignite Relationships. And just a little backstory, those of you guys that know me, I have the Success Chronicles where I interview people for positive inspiration and share their stories out there to highlight them. And I connected with Dr. Reed. We've written some books, and really, our life moves at the speed of our relationships. That's a quote from one of my former pastors. And man, when I heard that, it blew me away. But what helps our relationships is our communication, the ability to have effective communication and conversation. So in the book, we just break down some tips that we feel that it takes for people to have effective conversation to ignite those relationships so that you have a successful life. So it all goes back to success. So that's the first book. There's the information about that, and I'll go on to the second one. And just so you know, guys, I'm not much of a talk about me guy. So I'm, going a little fast here because I'm really excited to hear y'all's stories. Okay, so I'm gonna just put that out there. Oh wait, I told on myself. Oh, okay. All right. So the second book that I'm gonna highlight is The Formula Chart for Life. And growing up, I struggled with math. I mean, I had a really hard time with math. Even in college, barely passed. All the classes that I needed to have, but I wasn't gonna let that get between me and getting that degree, right? But I did what I had to do. And then when I got into teaching, I'm a fourth generation educator. I was thrown into a resource math class to teach that, or I co-taught chemistry. And so, along that journey, I saw that, man, there's a thing that we use in there that helps, which is the formula chart. Right. And so if you just plug in what you need, you get the answers from the formula chart. And so I was like, man, that can apply to life. Right. So I started taking notes a few years ago, how it could be applicable to life. And so basically that's what this book is. It's not a lot of writing. It's really just formulas. And really, if you can, plug in what you need for your life, and you get the answer that you need to help you be successful. Oh, wait, it goes back to success again, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what it's all about for me. That's my passion. And those are my two books. So, Tammy, I'll pass it over to you.
And for those that don't know about Chip, if you haven't been on the Success Chronicles or pulled it up, you need to. He is full of motivation and wisdom and inspiration.
Thank you.
My first book, Confident Athlete, it came about, some of you may have heard this story, but I was told I couldn't write, and even was given an F on a book report in high school because the teacher said it was too good to be true. And so as I struggled with confidence, this is kind of what I kind of realized can help people have that baseline of confidence and get off of what I call the roller coaster confidence. So short, easy read. It says The Confident Athlete, but I've had many non-athletes that really benefit from it. That led to the next one, which is based off of a story that was found in The Confident Athlete. And this is good. And I'm going to tell this is good. If you've heard it before, bear with me. But I love telling it because every time I tell it, I'm reminded of the power of it. But there was a king in Africa, and he had his best friend that he kept with him wherever he went, because the best friend would remind him, this is good. Could be the worst day in the world, and he would somehow find a way to tell the king how it was good. So they go hunting one day, and he loads the king's rifle for him. Well, it backfires and blows the king's thumb off. The king is irate, throws him in jail. All the way to jail, the best friend was, this is good. This is good. And in the meantime, the king goes out on another hunting party. And it's been about a year and a half while he's in jail. And the king and his hunting crew are captured by a band of cannibals. Well, the cannibals are going to kill them and eat them one by one. Well, they were very superstitious and did not believe in killing or eating anything that wasn't whole. So they let the king go. And he's like, oh my gosh, my best friend saved my life. And he rushes back to the prison, gets down on his knees, please, 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 please forgive me, to his best friend. His best friend, of course, says, this is good. He said, I know it was good for me. You saved my life, but I've wasted a year and a half of your life. No, this was good for me. And they argue back and forth. And finally, the best friend was able to tell the king it was good for him, because if he had not been in jail, he could have been with the king and possibly killed or eaten. Now, the whole message of that, I hope, is dramatic, a little bit dramatic from what we have to deal with on a daily basis. But the idea is the best friend never saw anything as good or bad. It was what it was, and his mindset was how to turn it into something good. And I think during COVID, the challenges that we face in today's life, that this African folktale has a powerful message. That too often our brains just say something is bad, and we don't keep ourselves mentally alive for something good to happen. And maybe it happens a week from now, maybe it's a year from now. But all of us, if you think about it, when you stayed in a positive, productive mindset and allowed things to happen in your life, there was this is good moment. And so I'm really wanting to create this is good movement and having people share their this is good stories, examples. I have a Facebook group, This Is Good. So I would love to hear from you guys in sharing your this is good stories. And last thing, something I put out every month is this confidence calendar. I just wanted to share it with everyone tonight. You can send me an email at tammy@r2lc.com, and I can make sure you get that every month. But enough about me. We're going to turn it over to, well, Chip. I don't think Nikki ever got on, so we'll move on.
All right. If you don't mind, we can put it on mute there so we can don't have any outside noise for everybody. All right. The next author that we'll have is going to be Chad Busick. He's going to discuss The Rock Tumbler. So, Chad, you're up.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me, Chip and Tammy. And Tammy, what you're doing here, what you guys are doing, this is good. Being able to share our stories. And so I appreciate you guys having me on and get to talk about The Rock Tumbler and 16 life lessons that we can learn from The Rock Tumbler. And admittedly, I know most people, when they pick up the book, aren't going to know what a rock tumbler is. So we're going to have to do a little education as well. But, ultimately for me, even before the events of 2020, I was inspired by this idea of a rock tumbler and how it can help us and share others, this kind of shift in a mindset, if you will. And when you look at the events of 2020, it certainly feels like we're living in a rock tumbler, going back to the passing of Kobe, COVID, all these different things that we've experienced, and just even recently the election. We live in a rock tumbler. And ultimately, that's what's going to decide that. So ultimately here, a rock tumbler is you take a little cylinder like this, you put a bunch of rocks in there, and you put the lid on, you add water, you add grit, and you put it onto a machine, and it turns 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the entire process takes over a month. And each week you take them out, you rinse them off, you put them back in, and throughout the whole process. And ultimately, the rocks are transformed. And when they go into the tumbler, they don't look like much. They look like ordinary rocks. And through this event of the rock tumbler, they become out to be shiny and smooth. And that's really the symbolism that I use in the book, is this idea of the rock tumbler teaching us how to address these life challenges. And so if you look at it, like life is like rocks in the tumbler. The events in our lives can either chip us away, wear us down, and leave us a shell of ourselves, or if we look at them correctly, they can shape us and mold us into the people that we're meant to be. And that's really the story. And so the rock tumbler, the story challenges people these two things. First of all, how you view the world, and more importantly, how we interact with the world, greatly determines what you get out of the world. And the second thing is that may we view our challenges, let's use the pandemic, not as something that we just survive or that we get through, but rather as to shape us and an opportunity to shape us, to mold us into the people we're becoming. And we hear so many people in the world today, I just need to survive this. I just need to get through it. And I want to not just get through it, I want to grow through it. And that's really what the book challenges us. So I hope that as listeners join in, they get the book, they're going to join my friends Chip and Corey. It's a fable that these two friends, my rocks, that I pick up on a run one day, and we kind of follow them through the journey. And the book's divided into 3 parts. The first part is the ingredients. It's what goes into the tumbler, right? The second part, part B, is what happens inside, the process of the tumbler. And then part C is the results that come out of the tumbler, right? And throughout that, there are 16 life lessons that we can learn. And at the end of it, it's really based on these 2 truths. The first truth is that your circumstances, whether good or bad, do not define who you are or who you live for. But how you respond to those circumstances will reveal who you are and who you live for. The second one is that when your identity is rock solid in who you are, there's an endless possibility on what you can become. But when you're focused on what you will become, it's an endless search for who you are. And when we look at the world right now, there are so many people focused and trying to find who they are, because everything they put value in has been taken away and stripped away. And we're seeing that in the world. So whether it's in certain areas of our lives or our life in general, we are going to spend the majority of our time either heading into a rock tumbler, in the midst of a rock tumbler, or coming out of a rock tumbler. So the opportunity is to understand how we're going to interact with that. So through the book and through the presentations that I'm doing, I really hope that our readers and our listeners take 3 things away from the book. The first one is that they would own their journey. Everyone's journey is different, right? And it goes from different paths, but own the journey that you're on, right? Don't be a victim. Don't be someone that just has things happen to them. Make your impact. The second thing is that we don't let our circumstances define us. Don't let your circumstances define who you are. And the third thing is that we would use our experiences, our circumstances, to propel us forward into the people we're meant to be. So hopefully there'll be an encouragement for people. I think it's kind of interesting. I started this book over a year ago, and it comes out after all the things of 2020. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I really appreciate being on today.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Chad. And, I really just have, so much good information there. Thanks for going back and teaching the lesson on that. But I really just have one word in response to all of that. Here it comes, Tim. Here it comes. Hey, and that word is boom.
I knew it was
man. Hey, man, that is some good stuff right there.
But before we move on, though, Chip, I want to add, I just finished Chad's book today. And
awesome.
It's great. Everyone needs to take the time to read it.
Yeah,
It puts things in perspective, definitely.
Here, I'll
that's
show you
awesome.
a couple of the, I don't know if you can see it very well, but a couple of the smooth rocks because I actually bought a rock tumbler and
Mm.
actually tumbled it through the process, and you get these just amazing smooth rocks. So pretty cool. And everyone's different, just like the world. Everyone's different in the world we're in today.
No doubt.
Thank you guys.
Well,
Lots
thank
of
you,
good
Chad.
lessons. Thank you,
Yes,
Chad.
yes. All right. Our next author is Tristan Jackson. Great lady, doing lots as far as education and helping people. Multiple time author, but not just that, but helps other people write books. So I'm so excited to have her on. She's a Houston native. So Tristan, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chip and Tammy, for having me. I made it on time this time. I have 5 alarms that reminded me 6 p.m., 6 p.m. So happy Thursday, everybody. Thanks again. My name is Tristan. I'm from Houston, Texas. I am a first generational everything, first generational college graduate. And I have a master's degree from Lamar University and an undergrad from Lamar. And I'm back in school again, trying to pursue my doctoral degree at Texas Southern with the emphasis in higher education. My first love is educating, and I love to write. My first book is called Dream the Impossible, and I released that in 2015. I grew up in a single parent home, and I always fought a lot of adversities and challenges. And I find that when I released my first book, I really enjoy inspiring and uplifting. So TJ Inspires was birthed in 2017 to let people know to never give up on yourself, never give up on your dreams. And the book I'm presenting today is called Wake, Pray, Hustle, Repeat. Inspiring and motivating dreamers, inspiring you never to give up on yourself. No matter where you come at in life, you can go after your dreams. You have to have perseverance, you have to have determination, grit, some of the things that we talked about earlier in the session. And so I'm super excited to share my story. Wake, Pray, Hustle, Repeat is for dreamers and really for entrepreneurs to never give up on yourself. It's a journal. At the end of the book, there are journal pages, and it goes through some Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, also my story of how I became an entrepreneur and how I am still inspiring. The next generation, never give up. Just keep going after your dreams. Keep going after them. No matter how many times you fall down, pick yourself back up. Continue to get around mentors. Get around support. Get around a support team. So just continue to keep moving forward. If you guys want to follow me, I'm on the website is www.tjinspires.com. Everything is TJ Inspires, and the meaning behind TJ Inspires is me inspiring you to never give up and keep moving, keep grooving, and knowing that the prize is on the other end. It will take some going through the valley. You're going to have some highs and some lows, some roller coasters, some everything. But in the end, it's about never giving up on yourself, never giving up on your dreams. If you only reach one person, you reach someone. Even if you reach 1 million people, there's still joy in the journey. So thank you so much. And again, I look forward to hearing the rest of the stories. If you guys would like to connect with me, I am waiting. And thank you, Chip and Tammy, for having me.
Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you, Tristan. Good job. Yeah, Tammy, this is good. All right. So our next author, I might just hit you with a boom before this one. But just it's an amazing story. And I'm so excited that Sharon is able to be on to talk about the girl in the garage. So Sharon, you're up, and thank you for being on.
Well, thank you so much, Chip and Tammy, for inviting me on. It's an honor to come on and share my story. So The Girl in the Garage is a faith-based self-help book, and you might wonder, well, why in the world would a faith-based self-help book be called The Girl in the Garage? Because that really sounds like it's a thriller, and indeed, it sort of is, but it's very PG. So The book is divided into 3 sections. The first section, I tell the story of what I went through in my life. There was a lot of abuse, and it's written very, very PG. This is appropriate for, I'd say, age 14 and up, because there's nothing in there to trigger anyone. I take you on a journey as I tell my story, as if we were sitting and having coffee. And I say, stop and look at this. Do you see how the pattern is forming? Because people always ask, when someone is a victim of abuse and they seem to keep finding themselves in unhealthy relationships, like, why did they do that? You know, why didn't they just leave? And those are the questions that people who have never been inside that arena, they don't understand. It's a pattern and a belief. So because there was years of abuse, it was starting to build up, but it was laying below, like it was quiet under the surface. Like, you know, when you put a pot on the stove and you turn it on and you want to boil, how it starts to simmer before you see those bubbles come up. Everything was simmering under the surface. But when I was 16, I went to a Halloween party and I was handed a cup. And yeah, you know exactly where this is going. What's very interesting is a girl handed me the cup, who was actually the sister of my date. So I was 16 and I was out with an older boy, and you and I both know that this has got no good written all over it. Well, 7 hours later, I woke up in a garage. And because of the circumstances around that, I started to believe this is just who I am. I am the girl in the garage, that I didn't have value. And that just became the mindset. So I walk through my faith journey in the book as well. And then I start going into really deep mindset work. And it looks kind of like this. What are you believing about yourself? So everybody has a thing that they believe about themselves. And I started using these questions when I was in the corporate world. And it was really working with people that were having trouble breaking through a ceiling and meeting their quotas. So I'd say, you know, think of something and don't share it. And then the next question is okay, now who would you be if you let go of that idea or that thought or that belief about yourself? And the first time I did this, there was a lady in the front row and she just blurted out free. And I was so not prepared for somebody to actually answer like that. But I thought, okay, I'm onto something. And that lady came to me after the training was over and shared with me how that had impacted her. So I thought, okay, I'm definitely onto something. So let's see how this can work again. So the next training I did, the same thing. 2 people in that room started crying. And I was really taken back. I was seriously not prepared for this. One was a gentleman in his mid-30s, and the other one was a young woman in her early 20s. Well, after that training was over, the gentleman came up to me and he said, I haven't spoken to my family in 10 years, and I'm going to call them tonight. The other girl, she was actually like really, really struggling because she had been through a ton of abuse. So I worked with her just a little bit. But the bottom line is everybody has this belief about themselves of why they are not enough. And it's really rare that you can find somebody that is totally okay with who they are and where they are and what they've been through. Like, that takes a lot of work. And, you know, definitely by the grace of God as well. So this is faith-based. One of the big questions I answer in the book is, if God is good, then why is he allowing these things? So I go deep dive, very, very short, like it's an easy read. It's a deep dive into free will and the ripple effect. And, you know, I just hope that the book really blesses people, especially people who have struggled with self-worth issues or feel like, you know, they're just not enough. Anyone that's had any kind of emotional, physical, sexual abuse is really going to benefit from this, because it is written like a workbook, and it's short, you guys. Like, it's not a big book. You can see how wide that is. It's like 108 pages, and it's so you can get a quick win. I didn't want somebody to have to read an encyclopedia-sized book in order to get a breakthrough. So you can actually get through it in a few days and then go back and do the deep work of really answering the questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. That was awesome.
All right. Right. Our next author is Coach Jamie Beckler. Excited to hear about his journey with his book, The Bus Trip. So, Coach, you're up next.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Chip, for putting this all together, and thanks for having me on. So my book is The Bus Trip. You can see the picture there on the screen. But I had actually written a couple books before that. I'd written the Leadership Playbook and Building Champions, and both of them were fiction, nonfiction, to help out sports teams in the area of leadership, character, success, and that kind of stuff. And I was very inspired by John Gordon, who you guys are all familiar with, or most of you are familiar with. And I liked reading his books. When I was coaching, I would give those books to my players because they're easy reads. And so I was inspired and wanted to write a book very similar to that, kind of be a poor man's version of John Gordon. And so I wanted to write a book similar to that was a story that also taught lessons. And I took those first two books and I kind of took those and put them into fiction form. So some of the same stories, some of the same principles just went into the fictional book. So the bus trip is something that most of us can relate to if we've been associated with sports at all. A team is struggling. The players are disgruntled. The players aren't very motivated. They're losing. There's all kinds of issues. And the story goes through, they wake up in the morning all the way to at night when they get back to the arena, back to campus. And they go on this trip and you see different scenarios, different conversations that occur during this road trip. And so people have asked me, is this based on a true story? And it's, yeah, absolutely. It's based on like 25 years of true stories of me being a coach, me being an athletic director, and then now working with teams in a consulting role. And so I wanted to put all that in there to give coaches a tool to be able to give to their players. This is how you as a player, so Chip, you're a player on this team and you are dealing with this issue, or your buddy is saying this on the bus or at the rest stop or at the restaurant. How do you handle this? What can you say to hold them accountable? Or more importantly, what I like to say is, how can you remind them of the standards? How can you remind them of what our goals are as a team? Or if you have a problem, Dan's your best friend. Dan could come up to you and say, hey, Chip, this isn't the way we do things. Or remember when you said you wanted to accomplish this, how are you able to accomplish this if this is, what you're saying? And so we have parent issues, we have injury issues, we have not playing issues. We just have pretty much everything that you can think of. We've wrapped it up into this book and kind of given little conversations throughout the book, and coaches a tool to give to their players so that their players know a little bit more how they can be better leaders on the team, because that's what we're trying to get at, is that all 15 players on this team, they're not all the captain. There's only 2 captains. But all 15 can be leaders, because leadership is not just about titles or influence or authority or status. It's about influence. That's what leadership is all about. And so we show throughout the whole book that theme of you can influence your 2 or 3 closest friends on the team, and therefore you're being a leader. And what we end up having is we have all these little conversations going on. So we have these 2 people talking at a truck stop, when you stop to use the restroom and charge your cell phones, all this kind of stuff, you got your 10 or 15 minutes at a rest stop, at a truck stop. Well, these 2 people are talking and they talk through some things, and all these little conversations are going on, but the rest of the team doesn't know that all these little conversations are going on. And then they have a team meeting the next day, and it comes out that all of these people all the players had conversations. And so we're trying to show that, it was Sharon, you mentioned earlier about a ripple effect. Well, the ripple effect was one person got another person who got another person to think of something, and then unbeknownst to them, other people were doing the same thing, and it was a ripple effect, and it spread through the team. Almost like if you go to a big sporting event, not during COVID, but outside of COVID, and they're all doing the wave. It started because one Yahoo decided to get another Yahoo, who got another Yahoo, who eventually got a section, and then the whole 80,000 people are doing the wave, and it was just a ripple effect. And so we wanted to provide something to coaches to give to their players to help them understand how to be, one, a more positive leader, but Number 2, how to be a better teammate. And so that's pretty much the gist of it. I wanted to write it just like Sharon said. It's pretty short. It's about a 2-hour read, if that. And so we want to provide something for teams to use. And so we've been very excited about it so far.
Awesome. Good stuff, Coach. Thanks so much for sharing.
I can speak for the Leadership Playbook. That was an excellent book. And before we move on, tell us really quick the title of the one coming out now.
Oh yeah, my next one is called The Captain, and it's dealing with positional leadership. So the last one dealt with everybody can be a leader. This next one is The Captain, and it's a former star athlete turned hotshot fighter pilot, and he has to eject. He has a failed mission, and he starts to realize that he's never really been a good leader. He's just always been a stud. He's always been the most talented, and people have followed him because he's the most talented, but he's never been a good leader. So that's the one we're writing right now.
All right. Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks, Coach. We'll go on to our next author. Our next author is Julie Fournier, and she's going to talk to us about the art of embracing adversity. Excited to hear her journey. You got it, Julie.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yes.
So, earlier this year, I started seeing all the numbers on how COVID was affecting athletes' mental health. And it was like a crazy amount were suffering with anxiety and depression. So I started talking to my teammates and coaches and other athletes, and they all said the same thing, like, this sucks and I'm not motivated. And rightfully so, because this is a really hard season. But I decided to start writing a book with the question, how can we stay motivated in times like this? And this is something psychologists have debated for years. They're like, all right, what's our chief desire in life? And Sigmund Freud believed it was pleasure. Alfred Adler believed it was power. But Dr. Viktor Frankl came along and he was like, no. Our chief desire in life is meaning. But when we can't find meaning, we distract ourselves with pleasure and power. And when you think about the culture we live in, we do that. I mean, like with everything, we distract ourselves with drugs, alcohol, food, social media. It's really just the culture we live in, and it's because there is a void of meaning. So then I went to, okay, well, how do we live a meaningful life? What makes a life meaningful? And it turns out the same thing that makes a meaningful life makes a meaningful story. So I started looking at movies, and it's like, okay, heroes need villains. Nemo has to get lost. Cinderella has to be mistreated by her stepsisters and lose her slipper. If there's no conflict, no adversity, then the story has no meaning. It doesn't go anywhere. So we need adversity in our lives to make them meaningful. And I think that's because adversity brings something out of us that ease never could. And I think the good news with adversity is because, I mean, it happens to us all, but adversity does not define you. What you do next does. Like, Tony Stark is not the guy who has a damaged heart from a plane crash. He's the guy who became Iron Man because of that adversity. So I believe adversity makes our lives meaningful, which is why I titled the book, The Art of Embracing Adversity. So thank you.
Chip, go ahead.
Yeah. Here it comes. Boom. Let's go. That's good stuff. So good. Well, Julie was our last author, and I just want to say, again, thanks so much. So, like I told you before we started, I knew that it would be great. Was truly excited to get on and hear the dynamic stories that all of you had about your books, and so it was more than what I thought it was going to be. And I thought it was going to be pretty great. So, Tammy.
All right. Well, before moving on from Julie, if you guys do not follow her on social media, you're missing out. So just wanted to throw that out there. But I enjoy reading her post every day. So thanks, Julie. And thank you to everyone Again, our number one goal is to help people share their messages as well as help people connect with each other. You know, several themes that popped up. We need others to find our meaning in life. And that's one of the purposes of this book club. So please reach out. If you're listening and not a part of the book tour, then reach out to these authors and allow us to live our passion and share with you our meaning in life. And, you know, I think Julie summed it up. I think that's why we're all on here with our books and trying to keep sharing the meanings that we all are living by. So again, you know, I say it every month with Chip, but we are very blessed with
Yes.
the authors and people that we've been connecting with. So kudos to all of you guys.
Yes. I just want to reiterate too, Tammy, you know, about going back, and I know that's, but like, you know, like all of the authors that we've highlighted are great people doing great things. And so we encourage you to, you know, go back. We have a couple of those on tonight, you know, so we encourage you to go back and check them out and connect with them. We're giving you the contacts, and so we can all be, you know, one big family to, you know, bond together and make a positive difference in our world.
Yes. Thank you all, and everyone, keep making a difference out there.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you guys so much.
Go get it.
Everybody.